And with the ever-changing and new tools that are coming out, it's important to stay up to date on all the new stuff. And that's part of why people join shows like this. Segue alert, we're gonna bring in our first guest, Mo Ali from Lock Labs, to talk about quite literally the newest programmer to hit the streets. I believe Mo is coming to us from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Mo, are you with us? How are you?
I am. How's it going, guys?
Going great. How you doing? And are you in Las Vegas today?
I am in Vegas. I'm in my office here in Vegas today. Yep. Came into work on a Saturday just for you guys.
And we appreciate it. So Mo's going to talk to us about the Lock Labs line. I know Sean's been chomping at the bit to ask you a handful of questions, so I'm going to turn it over to Sean.
I just couldn't wait. I couldn't contain myself. Mo, obviously you guys have been around with the AutoProPAD for a while, but for those that don't know, can you kind of discuss the history of the AutoProPAD and how it came about?
Oh, of course. And then, while I'm talking, you can go ahead and keep picking orders and figure that's why they stuck you in the back.
You can't see them all in the background, but they're there.
Can you grab me some B111s while you're back there? So AutoProPAD, it's been an adventure. It's been a journey. Started back in about 2014 when we first started working with Xtool to try and develop a dedicated key programmer for the locksmiths of America. Xtool at that time, they were strictly an automotive diagnostic machine manufacturer. But we noticed something about them very early on is in that they had a very complementary and pretty fleshed out suite of key programming software on their diagnostic tools. And we saw an opportunity there to work with them and to curate something that would kind of, the landscape back then was pretty different with programmers. You had a lot of tools that were pretty incomplete, things that did okay jobs with stuff like a CK100 or whatever. And the big dog was, the MVP, and they were just transitioning into the Smart Pro. And we knew the price tag that we would see there and the whole token thing. So we wanted to give people other options. At that time, we considered it more of an entry-level tool. But as we started to build it out and to get the data, the programming data on there and stuff, it's really become something comprehensive. I know a lot of locksmiths that only use the AutoProPAD, but I will agree with you guys and what you said just prior to me coming on, is that you got to have more than one tool in 2021. I think the AutoProPAD is a great one to keep in the arsenal, almost mandatory. Use it, when you don't want to burn tokens or your other tools, fail you or whatever, or rely on it as your main, and you should probably still do very well. In its early days, it was a diagnostic machine. Created the AutoProPAD out of that same hardware. The PS80 and 90, which were the original models, I think they had been on the market since 2011 or 12. And they had been around. Actually, the hardware and the architecture was even older than that. So the reason for the new machines for this next generation with the G2 and the G2 Turbo, a lot of the components in the original machine we're looking at over 8 to 10 years of age, and if not older. So, and in the computing world, that's prehistoric.
What does that mean, in practical terms for a locksmith?
Well, so, better architecture, better hardware means essentially you should have the capability to program faster and to be able to handle newer systems that are more complicated and intricate. I recall in the previous generation, we had just introduced BMW CAS programming, where we downgrade the system, the CAS system, so you can inject the new key into it. And it was taking forever. And it wasn't the fault of the machine. It was just the age of the hardware, really showing itself. We took the time during COVID because, typically we're out just harvesting programming information from vehicles, but COVID put a stop to that because vehicles became pretty inaccessible. We couldn't get engineers in the States. So we said, let's take this time to build out the hardware and get it where we need to be so we can continue this endeavor and bring the machine into the future. And I'm very happy with the result. I'm proud of the work that was done and that went into the new machine. It's a significant improvement over the previous generation. It is significantly faster. It's easier to use. It looks nicer, bigger battery, faster processor, bigger screen on the turbo. Yeah, just, sky's the limit. When it's very rare in our industry to see a key programming machine see a second generation. We're accustomed to these fly-by-night programmers. They come from manufacturers we never even heard of. They do an okay enough job, but the development dries up or the company disappears, or we've relived that time and again. So this is a statement from us. Like, look, we did exactly what we set out to do with the previous machine. The reception was great, and it worked well enough to the point where we can now bring out a second generation to continue on this journey.
So, on that point, so can you discuss maybe some of the, you mentioned it's bigger, faster. Are there any other kind of technical capabilities that the new tools have that the old tools did not?
Great question. So we do have two models. There's the standard AutoProPAD G2 and then the G2 Turbo. The G2 is the continuation of the AutoProPAD Full. So if you were into the Full and it's I guess I'd call it more basic or introductory EEPROM capabilities, and you were happy with all the OBD stuff, you're gonna love the regular G2. It's perfect. It does all the exact same things that the regular AutoProPAD does, all the same EEPROM, like the IC900 generation, like the early 2000s Toyotas, those early Pacificas, those early Hondas that needed EEPROM work. The G2 will do all of that, but with a new metal case and brighter screen and bigger battery. The regular G2 has the same size screen as the Full. So it really is just the evolution. We brought it up to 2021, gave it a brand new UI. It's screaming fast. And if you're happy with the Full, then by all means, the G2 is for you. The Turbo, that one we're looking to the future and looking to give people options for advanced EEPROM work for European vehicles, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen. The stuff where you got to take the entire car apart to program a key, because that makes sense. So all the module resync stuff, all the hard coding, pulling binary information from the vehicle, dumping it on the key. The Turbo's the one for you there. In addition to having those advanced EEPROM features, it has a bigger screen, it has a bigger battery than the G2. So it's like I think it's a 10.1 inch screen on the Turbo, but it doesn't weigh as much as the Smart Pro. So you can set it down on the passenger seat and it won't trigger the seatbelt light.
No comment there, but the Turbo, forgive me if I'm wrong, but does that have the ability to do Mercedes? Does it have the IR reader and everything?
Oh, you did your homework.
I did a little bit.
Yes, it does. It has Mercedes IR capability. It has SOIC, where the eight leg chip people tend to remove from vehicles when they can't do in-circuit EEPROM work, meaning you've got to take the chips out. So there's places to stick that. Those chips on the new, it's the unit that does that's responsible for this advanced EEPROM. It's called the KC501. That it's comparable to Autel's advanced EEPROM hardware, and but it's our version and with our engineering and our programming capability.
Very cool, very cool. Speaking of engineering, can you give us a peek of what might be coming on throughout the year here in 2021, if you guys have any new developments coming down the pike?
Yeah, so one of the biggest hindrances I think for all of us in this last year was COVID kind of ruined our ability to get out there and harvest the programming data that we so direly need to keep these machines moving. So progress on that front's been a little slow, but now we're starting to see some of the international travel restrictions kind of easing up. And as we start to open back up, we have the highest priority is on fleshing out the programming capabilities of the turbo and the advanced EEPROM, and then catching up both machines, all the AutoProPads, with some of the newer 2021 stuff. And I know a lot of people want to see even older stuff, like the stuff post K-line vehicles. So we have a bounty, we have a list of vehicles that we'll be targeting based on user feedback and what people want to see the machine do most. And we're going to be hitting that hard in the next couple months or so, and it'll be perpetual from there on out.
Can you give us a sneak peek of what one of those vehicles on the bounty list might be?
No, I'm probably the least qualified person to do that, but it's Mercedes or BMW FEM was never really fleshed out in the previous AutoProPAD. I know that's a top priority, but a lot of the newer, MBZ, Mercedes, Volvo, Volkswagen systems. I mean, that's just all the stuff that requires a vehicle to be stripped apart. Specific models, I'm probably the wrong person to talk about that.
No problem. With the new tools, has the pricing changed? And maybe can you talk a little bit about the pricing structure of the tool?
Yeah, so the G2, which again is the continuation of the full, isn't that much more expensive than the full, a couple $100. There's definitely a price increase as you go on to the turbo. But again, unless you're looking to do the advanced EEPROM stuff where you need the bigger screen, may not necessarily be the way everybody wants to go, but it's certainly a great option. Holding the two machines, I definitely like the feel of the turbo more, even though they have a similar physical look. It just feels more, it's just larger. I don't know, maybe I just like it because it's got a bigger screen. I know the battery's ridiculous on there. It's much bigger than it needs to be, but that's just fine by us. Yeah. Did I answer that question okay?
Yeah. How about the subscription? Has that changed at all?
No. If anything, there's no plans to increase any prices. If anything, it might get cheaper. But no, we saw the same subscription. The scenario is the same. Once you're out of sub, the machine just keeps working. We're never going to break it. That's not what we're about. The spirit of the project is to, be competitive and with the other programmers, but still give people something, let them use what they pay for. I don't like that whole pay to play feature and hiding things behind paywalls. This has never been what we're about. Yeah, all that stuff stays the same. We're not going to try and change it to we're not going to modify the subscription model. I don't see that as being an option, or even it's never been discussed. So
off the top of your head, do you know the pricing of the subscriptions and how that works?
I would if you had asked me and I wasn't on camera. I think it's $600 per year for the subscription, and I think there's a late charge on there, which we might be doing away with now that the machine has a countdown on it, a subscription countdown. But $600, I believe. I think you can quote me on that. That'll give you 1 full year of every update possible and live technical support. So that gives you somebody to call if you're stuck on a car. We've got, in my opinion, the best tech support in the industry. Our people are seasoned, they're experienced, they have all the right answers. They're easy to talk to, easy to reach.
Are those folks out in Las Vegas?
Yeah, everyone's here in Vegas. Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, this again, people like yourself with the keyless to go line, we create these things so people have viable options to OEM, and the high, you don't have to spend $10,000 on a programmer. You don't have to spend $250 on a key, right? I feel like the AutoProPAD is the perfect complement to keyless to go products. I would venture to say the AutoProPAD programs 95%, 98% of your transponder key and remote, and smart key line. I don't think that's an exaggeration.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah, get an AutoProPAD, get yourself into some keyless to go, and I'm telling you, you're gonna make money. Don't feel the need, especially if you're just starting out, to go and buy the best $10,000 programmer and all OEM and think that you're gonna, wow people. You're gonna end up in debt. Work your way up. But both the AutoProPAD, I'm just humbled and impressed at the same time at our development team. The thing's incredible, and once more people start kind of getting on board with the newer platform, you'll start to hear it.